That's a different revenue stream. Even if leads are coming in, I'm making money by doing this. I'm making money by doing that. I flip houses, I make money doing that. So you can have multiple income or revenue streams in real estate, and then you can also have multiple outside. I'm a real estate investor. I'm sharing everything I know about Subject to in a way that complete beginners understand. This guy is John Pratt, our fearless novice, diving headfirst into the world of Subject to real estate deals. Watch as I start him on the path. I'm your guide, Kyle Kargas, and this is Subject to Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire. Welcome to Subject to Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire, where a subject to deal is when you can go buy a house, take over their existing payments so the seller can leave, and you got to buy a house without involving a bank. And today, we have once again no one other than John Pratt.
How's it going?
Dude, going good. Going good, brother. How are you doing?
A few frustrations, but in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it. Yeah.
And every week, there's going to be those frustrations.
Yeah.
And sorry to tell you, John, it's never going to go
It's
away.
not, I'll die with something.
If there's no frustrations, there's no growth.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm excited to talk today. We're going to do a couple things. Today, our topic is going to be about KPIs. So we'll go into that, explain what that means. We're going to also get feedback from, I want to know, hey, how did the homework go? Where are you at? And what these new frustrations are. So I'm going to walk you all the way through that. And I think everyone's going to be able to take away a lot from this conversation. First, let's get into the homework. Last episode, the biggest problem was with your LOIs. Right? It was your reach.
Yes.
Right? You're like, hey, Kyle, I only have 4 people to call. And I'm like, that's not going to work. You're not going to be successful. Catch us up to speed.
Yeah.
How did that go? Where are we at?
So the very first thing I did, per your suggestion, was increase the geography. That's the only thing that I did, and it resulted in a huge, way more, leads. And so that was fantastic. So I started blasting out to these leads, and something happened. I get marked as spam. So I don't know if it's because like an individual marked me as spam. I think it was. But I don't know if it was just one, if that would actually matter because of the volume of people who I'm sending to who are not marketing as spam. It's a whole technical world, if you want to dive into that.
Okay, now, you were marked as spam,
Yeah.
but there's different levels of this.
Oh, different.
So it can get as bad as you are marked as spam and you actually get an email that is sent to you and you can't send any more emails out. And you actually have to contact, depending on where the email's coming from, Google or whoever the servicer is and get this actually fully fixed.
Yes.
Did you receive an email about it?
Not from my ESP, not from my email service provider, which is probably the worst thing, but also pretty direct and fixable. I got one from, I think it was Spam House, DBL, I forget what DBL stands for. I want deliverability. That's what email is all about. So I have to jump through their little hoops and they say, stop doing this, and commit to doing this and all this stuff. So big picture view here is I'll probably make a new similar domain to email from and protect my normal domain and then have an opt-in ecosystem on my normal domain mixed with the outbound strategy that we're all used to. So sort of have like a split strategy. So yeah, protect my normal domain, go through Spam House's little hoops that they want me to do, and then make a new domain, warm it up, send out,
So, which I think a lot of people watching might have the big concern, the same concern, I should say, is because people watching like, hey, I go and buy this .com, this domain.
Oh, they definitely have this.
And that's their baby. And they're like, that's my company name.
Where their website's going to live.
And people have this worry. If so much spam happens, they get shut down. And now it's like, gosh dang, I got all this marketing and branding, et cetera. And so your idea to solve that problem, if I'm understanding, that's the problem you're talking about. You know what? My .com, my main domain, I'm going to preserve better and not send all the LOIs through that one. If you go talk to doing LOI Blaster, if you're talking to the company and their guidance, right, is they tell you to get a domain because that's also going to up your deliverability and things like that. This isn't like, hey, don't use a domain.
No, absolutely
you still want it. You're saying in your main domain you're trying to preserve, you could use it, etc. You're just saying, hey, one of the byproducts of this, if it's the one I want long term, I don't want that to affect it.
Yes, because when you do anything, there's risk. Most talked about risk in email marketing, especially cold and outbound, is you're exposing yourself to being marked as spam. That could be by a recipient or by an ESP, your own ESP, the people you're paying to manage your email service provider, for example, Google Workspace, or any number of filters that emails go through before they hit the recipient. For example, Spam House apparently like flagged me because maybe I had some crazy like spammy word because I filtered all the spammy words out.
I hear all the time people like when they have links and all that other stuff in there, right?
Yeah.
That's going to dramatically up that, and those type of service
Depending
providers
on the link.
might have, depending on the link,
Yeah.
they'll have certain filters about all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And if one of those things trigger it, right, you're going to get it. So you don't know exactly what triggered it.
And honestly, they're very, very strict. Like, good for them, I guess. It keeps the bad guys out. But it comes at a cost for people like me and people who are doing the same thing, because we have to be very careful about like what we expose ourselves to, our domains to, and what we don't.
So that makes sense. So what I'm hearing, and I like it, is it's not just, hey, I'm going to use a dummy Gmail that doesn't have all the credibility, because then you're going to have other problems.
Yes.
You want a domain still. So everything that LOI Blaster, the company, et cetera, tells you to do, you're still going to do. You're just like, you know what? I'm going to run 2 simultaneously, possibly a third, right? Where you could say, here's my main one I'm going to preserve, and then here's my other 2 that I'm going to send LOIs out of.
Yes.
And you can either alternate, or you could come up with all sorts of strategies to help solve this type of problem, because ultimately, I mean, you're not the same as a spammer that's trying to get money from somebody and all this other stuff, right? You're actually not selling anything.
Yeah. Right? There's 3 levels of that. There's the spammers who aren't selling anything. They only have what's called a burner domain, and they don't have a normal domain because they're just trying to burn you. Really.
Right. Yeah.
And eventually that domain will get burned and it'll be useless. They'll move on to the next one. That's how they operate. These are the true spammy spammers. Nobody wants them.
Right.
And then there's the traditional model of if a company does outbound, what they usually do is they have their normal domain, and then they also have burner domains, but they're not trying to burn you.
Right.
They just know that their domain that they're using for outbound cold outreach is at risk of being marked as spam.
Yeah, it's so important to preserve that main domain. They do whatever is necessary.
So they keep that one running and operating for the outbound, and then they keep a backup burner that's also warming up. And then once this one is burned, if it's burned, they switch and they go fix this one and warm it up again, and they use this one. That way they have a constant ability to create outbound leads while maintaining their website, the integrity, if you will. What I'm interested in is, again, my background is in inbound. So using that main domain for inbound, opt-in, marketing. Have some sort of lead magnet, give them value, right? They opt in, they get my email course or whatever it is. And then my main domain, it becomes an inbound machine. My burner domains become an outbound.
Yeah, so you use those domains to get them to the right domain as a proper inbound opt-in lead, right?
Whole point, end of the rainbow for everybody is your calendar. Putting them on your calendar. That's the whole point.
Exactly. And to avoid these big issues, because one of the real things, right, in business is there will be obstacles, there will be challenges. It's all about constant flow. You need to get to a certain level, but then you need to be constant. I mentioned this in another episode, one-itis.
Yeah.
Right? To where it's like, literally, you'll go, someone like you, they'll go work on a deal. Hey, there's a possibility of this deal. They'll spend all their energy and time on this deal, and they're not calling other people to get and all of a sudden that deal doesn't happen. And so they live and die by the one deal. But the same concept applies here, because if all you're relying on is one domain, any big issue like that, and all of a sudden it's like
you're shut down.
You just got your business shut down.
Yeah.
Right? So in a perfect world, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? So whether you solve that by having multiple domains, sometimes you can solve that by having different people working on a team, like some bigger people, like if you have other people working for you and under you, that is a somewhat similar solution.
Yeah.
I might not need 3 different domains. I could be like, I have my domain, maybe one other one. You might have yours, 1 or 2, and other people have theirs that are setting up the appointments. So like in all reality, there's 5, 6 domains working to try to get to the same goal.
I guess that's a good thing. It's a great thing, because if one of them stops or quits, you're still up and running.
My whole bit, correct. And then just to take that even further, beyond even real estate, and even inside real estate, would be people talk about multiple revenue streams. In real estate, you should have multiple revenue streams, right? Eventually. Get this business up and going, which I'm not going to talk too deep into this, because this series is all about trying to help you get going. And I don't want you to think about other revenue streams. But as you keep growing, you start setting up these appointments, you will evolve. And you'll fit. Remember that chart? And it was like, where are you going to sit, John? But where might you end up? It will be different from where you're starting. You might, down the road, a deal comes in to me right now. I'm buying a bunch of co-living properties right now. So if it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 plus square foot home, non-HOA, I am buying that right now in Phoenix, a bunch of them. Well, that's my buy box. If it's not my buy box, I might wholesale it, like I put on that chart. And so that's a different revenue stream. Even if leads are coming in, I'm making money by doing this.
Yeah.
I'm making money by doing that. I flip houses, I make money doing that. So you can have multiple income or revenue streams in real estate, and then you can also have multiple outside.
Sure.
You can still have your business, right, of what you have, and now you're trying to create a different revenue stream for you in your life. And there might be other ones you add into in the future.
Yeah, even within real estate. Like if I don't want it for my own revenue stream, like let's say I'm setting appointments, let's say I want one.
Yeah.
Instead of wholesaling, I want to buy it. So I go buy it, maybe I have a rental income stream now, or plus appreciation, maybe I'll sell it later, right? But also later down the road, maybe I'll get into dispo in the sense of like have a list of buyers that I can either sell access to, sell them houses that they want.
Yep.
External to the real estate, just other stuff.
Makes sense. So, okay, perfect. So I think that's a pretty big takeaway. Understanding that's a great idea. To end the summary, the issue you had before of only having 4 people to call, you now have a lot bigger list.
Which exposed me to more risk. Which
exposed you to more risk, so now you have a new problem, but you already have a plan in place to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay, and anyone watching can do those things to go solve those issues if they run into it. Moving on from that and kind of going back to, hey, what the issue you had before, the issue why you only had 4 people to call was the list was not big enough and not enough LOIs were going out, which is why you didn't have enough people to call.
Yes.
Now you've expanded, right, geographically, so now you have a lot bigger list being pulled. More LOIs going out, which we have evidence of, hence the spam. And now I'm assuming there's more people to call too.
Yes.
Right? You've made progress. Do you feel like that was enough? Take your best guess. The amount that you've expanded now, does it feel like you've solved the initial problem that you stated with the 4 calls?
Yes. Now I have direction to, because before it's like I was like exhausting an area and then who do I LOI to, right?
Okay.
So yes, that definitely solved.
Okay. Because sometimes,
long term.
yeah, because sometimes you expand, but it still wasn't enough.
Okay.
Right? And then maybe there's other things we have to do. So for right now, you feel like what you put into place solved that temporary issue that you had.
Yes.
And now you can move forward.
To the next issue.
Perfect.
Yes.
So now we're not having a list issue anymore. It was a list issue. Let's be real.
It was.
It was a list issue. List issue solved. You're having a slight LOI deliverability problem, which you're working on.
Which I would never have found out if my upstream problem was not solved.
Exactly. You just move backwards
Yeah.
until you find the problem, solve it, and then you keep moving forward to up the quality. Especially, let's just pretend you already fixed this spam problem.
Yeah.
You're going to have a bunch of LOIs and making calls. Okay. Which perfectly leads us into the main topic that I wanted to talk about today to get you on to your next level. Okay? Because it's super related. KPIs, key performance indicators. Okay? Now, what you need to know is, first, this is not just a real estate thing.
Yeah.
Key performance indicators are in all industries. These are just what's the data that you're analyzing to make a decision on. In our group, it's, hey, what are the key performance indicators that for your very specific business, because yours are going to be different than what mine are. A wholesaler with someone that's trying to buy rentals, which is someone trying to do co-living, someone trying to do dispo. All of those will have different key performance indicators, right? Or statistics that you should be watching to know where your problems lie. And then when you're ready to pour gasoline and go to the next level, where's your limitation at? That's the point of these, okay? And to keep you on track, because it's very easy to get derailed.
Yes.
Okay? We're emotional beings. And what's up here is not always correct at first. I can't tell you, John, countless times I'm like, gosh dang it, this is the problem, this is that. Or my VAs, my virtual assistants that do cold calling, they'll come in like, yesterday was so hard. And I'll have that meeting with them. It was crazy. It just sucked. Every day, what do? I pull up actually our data and we say, hey,
interesting.
Every morning I talk with them for a brief little bit and we go through and I said, okay, hey, let's do this. Number 1, how was our text messaging? What's our deliverability rate on our text messaging? Was there a problem there? Emails. What's our deliverability and open rate on our emails? How much is their total talk time every day? And then I also go into how much is their average conversation length for both an outbound and an inbound conversation. I go through all that every day with both of them. And we have KPIs for all of those. They know exactly how long an inbound conversation, what the target should be.
Yeah.
Okay? Those are very clear because we have KPIs.
Yeah.
What's funny, they might have struggled and maybe didn't get as many leads as they wanted that day, appointment set up for me, but I'll go back and look and they're like, it was so tough, but like they go back and they literally aced everything.
Yeah.
All the numbers are right where they need to be or even high.
Yeah.
And it's like, you feel like you had a bad day, but actually you had a stellar day.
Yeah.
Don't change a thing because it's just a fluke or the numbers didn't statistically pan out in your favor for the day. But don't change anything because if you do, you're changing emotionally, not based on data.
Yeah.
And you'll be your worst enemy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Hence
the need for KPIs. They're super important. Okay, so for you, and I want everyone else to know, you need to come up with your own KPIs based on what you're doing. But if you're following along and doing what you're doing, there's KPIs that I want to know as someone that's working with you so I can quickly evaluate how things are going. But then you should have your own sub KPIs underneath so you can dig in deeper, right, and know what's going on. So for example, there's 3 KPIs, John, that I want you to start. I haven't told you to ever do this. It wasn't as important.
Yeah.
Why do you care about numbers? The numbers are going to be off if you don't do everything else in the other episodes that I have taught you up until now.
If my system sucks, why?
If your system sucks.
Why track it? There's fixes that need to be made before this.
There's major fixes. For example, who cares how many calls you're making, John, if you're only making 4 calls?
Yeah.
Who cares how many leads you're setting up if you're only making 4 calls, et cetera, et cetera.
So every rainmaker should have?
Yeah, so every rainmaker, you're doing the rainmaking job, right? And that term comes from, the challenge we talked about in previous episodes. Rainmaker is the one pulling the lists and sending out the LOIs, right? And then you have the appointment setter, and you're doing both jobs.
Right.
Okay, so every rainmaker should have their KPIs, and then there should be KPIs for the appointment setter as well. So we're basically going to combine your KPIs, right? So mainly with a rainmaker, the number 1 KPI is how many LOIs are being sent out.
Yeah.
And number 2, and response rate. Okay? That's all a rainmaker cares about. If they're sending enough, how many opportunities could you potentially be creating? And then what's that response rate? And anything you can do to get that response rate higher. For example, did you need to expand your geography? Yes, you did. That was a rainmaker's job. Right? How many LOIs are you sending out? Now the response rate, that's your deliverability issue you're talking about.
Yeah.
So all of that is the rainmaker position. You're also the appointment setter.
Yes.
So after the LOIs are sent out, your delivery rate is good and someone responds back to you, you are calling them. Now they might call you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ideally,
this goes so well that they call you and it's inbound.
Yeah.
Okay? Great. So one of your KPIs is how many conversations are you having with these people, okay? Inbound or outbound, and possibly track both. Now, tracking both could be your sub-level KPI.
Yeah, my internal tracking.
Exactly. But what I want to know is, John, how many conversations are you having every day? If you're not having conversations, how are you supposed to get me any leads?
Yeah.
Right? Any appointments set up. So it's, John, how many conversations are you having, right? And then we'll say how many appointments are you setting up. So now you actually have 4 KPIs you're tracking because you're running 2 jobs.
Yeah.
How many LOIs are you ultimately setting up? What's your response rate on those? How many conversations are you actually having? And how many of those are you turning into actual appointments for me?
Yes.
Okay. I can tell you how healthy you are as a business on those 4 KPIs. So this is your new, quote, homework, is you're going to implement, and every week now you are going to submit to me the statistics for these 4 KPIs.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? So it's okay if they suck right now.
Right.
Okay? Don't feel bad. Don't not do them because of fear of embarrassment.
Right. No, yeah.
Okay? You're just lying to yourself.
If I was afraid of embarrassment, I would not be on a show called
You probably
More
would be on More On to
Yeah,
Millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you suck as a person. Sometimes those are all personal things we all have to grow and overcome. John, will you commit to collecting data for all 4 of these and submitting those to me weekly?
Yes.
Okay?
What's the best way to do that? Just an email?
I will say just email them to me for now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'll have a sheet.
I will tell you with cold callers and everybody else, we have more sophisticated ways of tracking it. We use software to do it automatically, print reports.
I want that. How do I do that? I'll pay for it.
Or other ways is you can have input forms. So every day you just go to an input form and asks you the 4 questions and you go do, inputs it into a spreadsheet and etc.
But if I could have it all live in some sort of CRM and we're just like even call from the CRM.
Yeah. So my cold callers, that's what we do.
Okay.
They're in our CRM. So it simplifies everything. They're just dialing how many calls they make is tracked, the length of conversation, all the stuff I already told you is all tracked. Okay. I literally just have to open it up and we talk about it. That could be beneficial.
I'll start it manually.
Okay, start it manually, and I want you to actually start it manually, even if you have the means and are able to, because one, not everyone does, and that's a whole thing you have to learn. So the actually biggest problem is the opportunity cost of going and spending time now on creating a CRM and doing all that stuff, because it will take you away from your focus to get it all up and running, build it the correct way, etc. Even though the end result gets you the ease of knowing the numbers and everything streamlined, it will cause you to make less phone calls and slow you down on actually making money right away. Okay. So don't do that.
Okay.
For now, send me the email. We might set you up with a little bit more automation, and we'll share that if we do. But let's have you just send me an email every month of this data. So just keep track of that, okay? And I want you to add up for the week LOIs, closing rate, how many conversations you have, and then how many appointments you set up for me, okay? So that's your official homework. That will dramatically push you to a new level now, and it also clarifies for you because you will see where the issues are easily.
Okay.
You're like, Kyle, I'm not getting any appointments set up. That's my problem. No, it's not. Your problem is actually here. Last week, it was actually at the very beginning with the geographically filter, right? That's the big thing. I think everyone has learned what these mean. I think you are ready to commit to that. Let's do that. John, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. Thanks for hanging out. On to the next one. Peace.